Hi, everybody. Welcome to Boise Entrepreneur Week 2021. My name is Ian Harris, CEO of Vynyl, and today's conversation is going to be about lessons learned while fundraising. To join me in this conversation, I'm really excited to welcome Monte Keleher from Fitted, who's the founder and CEO there, to talk about some of the things that he's learned, talk about some of his journey as a startup founder, and hopefully impart some great lessons to all of you who are watching today. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Really excited to be here and chat with y'all.
Awesome. Well, why don't we start with a really tough question, which is tell us about Fitted. What is Fitted? What do you guys do?
Yeah, I'll tell you that right now. That is by far the toughest question. At the highest level, we're a universal B2B platform for retailers and wholesalers. So think of, PayPal, Venmo. It's a single platform where everyone's on, and that's what makes it so successful. You can instantly connect with your peers. It's peer-to-peer business. We're taking that same concept to the business side of things, of saying, why isn't there a single platform which all retailers and all brands, right, are on, and they can instantly connect both for orders, fulfillment, visibility, payments, and it all happens across our platform, which is pretty neat. And not only do we connect, in the traditional sense, retailers to brands, right, wholesaler to retailer, but kind of taking this whole new thought process and saying, why don't we connect retailer to retailer from an inventory and purchasing capabilities?
It's awesome. And how did you come up with this idea? I think one of the things that people think about, the epiphany. Tell me a little bit about your background. What led you to this idea and to what you're doing at Fitted.
Yeah. So about 11 years ago, a little over 11 years, dear Lord, I started a run specialty store. So, a small local specialty shop in retail. We have 3 locations now throughout the Bay Area, San Francisco. And during that time, it's basically learning from failure, right? I mean, there were so many things you run into as a local or a small business, so many constraints, when it comes to cash or resources. And so I wanted to build, a solution for myself in a lot of different ways, both connecting with, consumers better, but also being able to have the, if I can create that connection with a consumer, I need to have the resources behind me, between brands and myself and just operationally. And it's very hard to do that as a small business. And so I wanted to create a solution for myself. And then I realized, wow, this is cool. Why not give it to the entire, running store community? And then we realized it was not just a specific industry problem. It's a retail problem, right? And so being able to bring world-class resources that usually the big boys, get, we're able to bring it to any great retailer out there, big or small. It's like level the playing field, and raise the tide. So
you're a small business owner, you're running specialty shop, you see problems, you decide that you're going to start innovating a solution that'll work for you. And you realize that, hey, there could be a business here doing something like this for more run specialty stores, and then for more stores beyond that, that are, in different verticals, different markets, other things. And so from there, you made one phone call, walked into a VC's office in Silicon Valley, and they wrote you a multi-million-dollar check, right?
I didn't even have to make the call. They read my mind. They dropped off a check at my doorstep.
Yeah, exactly. Now, right. So how did that happen? Tell
yeah. So to be clear, I just talk a lot. I've got 2 brilliant co-founders. They're the technical side of the things. I just talk, and they say, okay, that's possible or that's not. And usually it's no, that's not possible, right? So anyways, we kind of built this out. We went to, being actually in the heart at the time of Silicon Valley, right? We went to a lot of VCs. We really didn't kind of know what we're doing. We're pitching and nothing. I mean, they're too early, don't tell. And it's one of those things when you, especially when you just begin, you pitch one thing and then that doesn't work and they give you some advice and then you change it and you keep on changing your pitch. And all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, what even story am I telling? Am I just trying to tell a story to get some dollars? Because that's not what we're trying to do here. So we actually ended up, getting told no by a bunch, right? Or do this or change that. And then we weren't even doing what we planned on doing. and we took a little bit of money, tiny, almost like kind of the friends and family, type deal, and bootstrapped it ourselves. COVID hit, and we were talking to some investors prior to COVID. COVID hit, y'all, and our business blew up. But at the same time, the world and, to everyone at that March, is caving in, right? So like, we're like, okay, we've got X amount of dollars in the bank, very little, and we're just going to bootstrap it ourselves. And let's just hang on for dear life and help as many retailers as we can. And it's one of those things like, all of a sudden one of the investors reached out via an email just saying, hey, just wanted to check in. And it was like, hey, here's our ARR. And they're like, what are you guys doing? Like, here's a check, basically. Right. I mean, let's get back to it. Right. So we actually ended up doing that unexpectedly to a certain degree. When we were like, holy crap, our wives are going to divorce us because we're going to put all of our money into this company, in the middle of COVID. And we did. And anyway, so we raised some money in a series or a pre-seed, we raised, I think it was about 1.2.
You started the company, you went out to try to raise, you like got doors slammed in your face. People were like, actually, you should sell soup. Like, e-commerce is so yesterday. Like what you guys should be doing is security, right? And then, you became a security company, and then you became a restaurant that sold soup.
Yeah.
And then you realized that maybe there was really something there in the e-commerce space. So then you started bootstrapping the thing. You raised a small friends and family round. That took you how long? How long did the friends and family round?
We had been. I'd been hitting the when I call it friends and family, I'd been hitting those guys pretty hard, constantly every week, just telling them what we're doing, telling them where we're going, right? And so that. I was probably talking to him for a couple months, but when it came down to crunch time, it was probably 2 months, worth of like, and again, we raised 200,000. It was like,
2 months, $200,000 from people you knew, right?
Yep. So, and then we went 8 months until that next round, and that's when we raised 1.2.
And full disclosure, I should say that that I was on the other side of the table seeing your pitches and whatever else. We were one of the people who invested in that round,
in that early round,
and in the third round actually after that. So it was interesting to see your progress and trajectory there. All right, so you raised that second round, just over $1 million. What was that like? Who were the investors that you were targeting there? Who were you talking to?
Yeah. So what was neat? Yeah. So one of our earliest investors in the quote friends and family, he was actually, he had his own investment fund, but he was at the time, I don't know if I want to bring you to my buddies, right? I'll give you a little money, but I don't know if I want to introduce you to the big guys. So, when we were doing this round, our official pre-seed, then he did introduce us to that, right? And it was great. We also really wanted to. We had moved to we started in the Bay Area, right, in San Francisco, San Mateo area, and then we moved out here in December to really January 2020, right before COVID hit, right? And so we moved our business out here, and I'm a local guy at my heart, right? Like that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build more local community, right, through retail. So when we got here and when we were doing our raise, it was like, we need to talk to local investors because we've got our VCs out in the Bay Area, but we really want to raise as much money locally as possible. So we started with Trailhead, right? I reached out to TM. That's when he connected me to you guys, Nick, and yourself, right? The Capital 11 guys have been incredible. And then we started the talks with a lot of angels, that had exits. Mike Bourne at Clearwater, Brad Waskurgeon at Count, Matt Rissell, of course, T-Sheets, Faisal Shah, Aptitex, and so forth. So we kind of built those connections and Trolley House and got them interested. Some participated, like your guys selves, in that early round, Capital 11 guys, and but we wanted to be as local as possible. So that's where we got. And then some larger individuals in California that did kind of the Netflix, the Uber, the Chegs. They were our lead for that first round.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's a really important thing there that you mentioned. First with obviously friends and family, you're going to people that you know, right? But even when you start pivoting toward, okay, let's go to that next level of sort of angel investor or small funds and whatever else. I think it's really important to approach people in your community, people who you know, to build on credibility, right? To find ways of getting introductions from others who are also credible, so that people will give you a real serious look. I think a lot of times, people think to themselves, well, gosh, how can I even, do I just cold call these people? Like, how do I get a meeting with these folks, whatever else? You were relatively new, to the Boise area at that point. How did you do that? How did you make yourself a known quantity where people were willing to take a meeting with you? Or did you just cold call people?
There was a lot of cold calling, to be honest. But again, we went to Trailhead. We went to TM and said, who's who? Who can we talk to? And then he introduced us to Trolley House, right? And though Trolley House didn't participate in that first round, they connected us with the Capital 11, right? Like they connected us and even just got our name into their network, if that makes sense. Yeah. So when we ended up doing our, TM connected us with Nick and yourself and Vynyl, right? But when we did do our actual seed round, Trolley already knew all about us. Mike Boren knew all about us. Faisal Shah knew all about us. Matt Rissell knew about us, right? Theoretically, I'm probably playing this up, but it is so important.
They're watching right now and they're like, I didn't know.
Yeah, dude, I didn't even invest in these guys. What? I think it's, you absolutely should cold call, but you're probably going to get, I did that in California. I mean, you're going to get a meeting if you're lucky. Right. But they're usually not listening, or it's not to get, you have to find that relationship and build on that relationship. Point,
right.
Yep. And then
Trailhead, which is great.
Yep. And they were trusted, right? Like, so that when I did meet with John Hale at, over at Trolley, it wasn't just him doing TM a favor. It was like, well, TM wouldn't send someone that he didn't think was
worth looking at. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to talk about another subject here, which is a little tactical. So sometimes when people think about fundraising, I think they conflate it with pitching, right? Like pitching and fundraising are the same thing. And, pitching is certainly a piece of it. There's a comedy routine that I think about often when I think about the pitch. And, I think years ago, I think it was Chris Rock, and he says, he's talking about when you first start dating somebody and you go on that first date, right? You're not actually meeting that person, right? What you're meeting is their representative, right? You're meeting like the representative of them, what they want you to think they're really like, but you're not really seeing what they're like. And I feel that way about pitching. Now that I'm sometimes on the other side of the table receiving pitches from entrepreneurs, sometimes you meet somebody and you're like, wow, this person's really real. I really believe in what they're telling me, whatever else. And sometimes you're like, man, they have been overcoached. I have no idea if I believe this whatsoever. So can you talk to us about, from the early stage now to maybe the last round of, several $1 million that you raised, how has your pitch changed? How do you approach that process?
Yeah. So I think it's natural when you're first getting into it, or you're approaching a new milestone, it is a pitch, right? I mean, you are very tactical. You've thought through it. You've practiced it. You kind of know the ping points. I mean, again, you're selling something, right? But I feel like in the beginning, you're so focused on the sale rather than when you're fundraising. There does need to be relationship. These people are giving you money, and no offense, y'all. At the end of the day, they gave you money. They're going to expect something a lot of the time, right? And that means if you're just pitch, telling them what they want to hear, and they hand you money, and then you're like, hey, but we're really focused on this, or hey, this is who we really are, and blah, blah, blah. Even if it's great, you're going to have some problems, right? And so trying to, if it's even, you quote pitch or sell it the first time, but then you do need to start being what I found myself, right? I want them to know, like, sometimes I'm going to swear, and I need to see their reaction, because guys, every VC has money, right? I mean, you wouldn't be talking to them otherwise. It's them having a connection to you, ideally not your pitch. It's they have a connection to either you or your company or your team, right? Like, that's what's truly going to make the difference between pitching and successfully fundraising, in my mind. And all of our, all of our investors, they're fairly hands off, because that's been talked about, right? I said, look, we're going to the moon. We're going 1,000 miles per hour. We'd love you to be a part of that, right? Most people are going to say, okay, cool. I'm not going to get in the way a ton of times, right? But they also know what they're getting in for, right?
So I can remember seeing your pitch, right? And I think, just using you as an example, when folks pitch to me, I want to see that they've thought it through, right? I obviously want to see that they've gone through and thought about their business in a structured way. I want to see that they have a handle on what the most important, levers to pull are. They have some idea of how they're going to go get customers. They know what their market looks like. They understand who their customers are, right? I want to sort of understand those things. The biggest thing for me is that I want to make sure that the founders, right, the entrepreneurs, people who are actually going to build the business, understand their business, right? And one of the things that really stood out when we met you was that you really understand your business, right? Like you've run the types of businesses that your customers were running. You were still running a business like that.
Right.
You really had an understanding of it. And so one of the things that I really like is that you knew your business better than I knew your business, right? And so I think that's probably mostly the case, right? A good entrepreneur will know their business better than the investor will. But also, right, even though you're in that position, you have to be open to feedback. You have to be open to learning, right? And so, as an investor, right, you start, asking questions, you start pushing back. You want to see how that entrepreneur responds. Are they open to these ideas? Have they considered them? How do they respond to them? And I think that that's a really important thing. You're not looking for just a yes all the time, right? If I told you, oh, I think you're completely wrong about that, partly I want to see how you respond, right? I don't necessarily want you to say, yep, you're actually absolutely right. I'm just going to do it your way. Right? You want people to have some conviction. And so how do you balance that as an entrepreneur, when you're in the meeting, right? Obviously you want the money, you want to close the sale. The investor starts giving you feedback, telling you what to do. You have to be open, you want to learn from them. They might be right. But how do you balance sort of getting all of that feedback with, maintaining your vision for the company and at North Star?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot there, but I think just what you ended on, understanding and sticking to your North Star and truly feeling it, like understanding it in and out, right? Is so important, because theoretically, if you have the right investor in front of you, they are going to ask those hard questions that most people would never want them to ask you. And as one of the founder, right, you should be dying for that question, because that question is what kills it for you, right? Like, they ask you a question that should, in their mind, like stump you, or you kind of stumble over it, and you get so jacked up that question is, because all you're doing is like, you're just playing tennis and you're murdering it, right? So if they're asking you questions that you can't answer, y'all, you probably need to go back to the drawing board, or you need to start thinking about it, right? And the way is answering that, right? And you're going to also learn every single time you answer those questions. You're going to learn more about your business, right? At the same time. So I think it's been so fantastic, the investors that we have, and even the pitches that we've gone through, those questions make you so much better, right? It makes you think about your business. It usually is what's going to get you your money at the end of the day, right? No pitch. I'm sorry. Maybe Airbnb or something like that has made a pitch. Someone writes a check without asking many questions. But like you said, that's the stories, the fairy tales that we hear, right? It's really, you're going to nail it, because they are trying to tear you apart, and you are just so jacked up that they're coming at you, right? Because
I want to see how you respond to it.
Yeah.
That's when the pitch really starts for me. It's
Yep.
like, okay, you finished the deck. I've seen the hockey stick, right? I get that you're going to have explosive growth and that your, market is huge. Now let's see how you respond to some of these questions, right? Curveballs, another thing.
Yeah. And that's what I can't stand. I mean, now that we're kind of going into our next, our Series A, and we're getting with more, just larger VCs. Y'all, why do I even have to show you the deck? Sure. Can I go to the person that came to you last time and I'll just show you some hockey sticks but let's have a conversation, right? Like, y'all, all decks are the same, right? Like, that's what drives me nuts. Here's my margins. Here's my growth. Triple, double. Yeah. Okay, cool, dude. I'll tell you that.
You got to check the boxes, right?
Yeah, I know, but I hate checking boxes. I don't care. Right? I know. So you've got to find the balance, but you are going to learn so much by the questions you get also, guys. If you're talking to an investor that's literally just trying to destroy you, what? You don't want them as your partner. Right. I have had some of those where it's like, oh, you're just being a jerk, right? Just to trying to show that you're smarter. And those are the ones that you just got to, that's when you start saying yes. That's when you do start saying, okay, yeah, for sure. Right. And you get out of the room as soon as possible, because at the end of the day, you want someone that's constantly trying to challenge you, but respects the hell out of what you're doing. That's the key. Right. And you respect them just as much that, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, yeah, right. There's got to be that respect that goes both ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you need to make sure you have investors that get it. And so how do you do that? I mean, look, it's competitive. Yeah. People want to raise money. It's easy to say yes if someone is offering you money, right? Even if they have conditions. How do you think about the investors? I mean, I think in interviews in general, I think one thing that people need to remember is that those interviews are going both ways, right? When you investor, they're trying to interview you. They're trying to find out if they want to invest in you, but you should be trying to figure out, do I want to be attached to this company, to these people for the next however many years, right? To offer me. How do you think about that? Especially now in the later stages,
Yeah.
In the early stage, maybe you take the money you can get if you really need it, right?
Absolutely.
A little more. I mean, obviously you don't want to take bad money. I mean, somebody who's really toxic or something, or has ridiculous conditions. But, as you get further along, right? How do you think about fit with an investor?
So I'll preface it with, it matters how desperate we are, right? If we go out and we start telling our story, which I don't think is gonna be a problem, but and no one invests, I'm going to tell you something different, right? And sorry, I'm not going to tell my story different. I'm saying I'm going to tell this podcast would go differently, right? Like, because we have been where we're like, oh my gosh, like, why is no one investing in us? We see this huge vision, right? And
sometimes you might have to take a less than perfect deal in order to move forward.
But I would rather take the key is the conditions, right? To be honest, right? Like, how involved are they? For us, in some cases, you'd rather give away a little bit more equity for less involvement, because you're like, we know what we're doing. Don't mess up, right? Or vice versa, right? Hey, they're giving us more involvement. We're going to give away less equity because we really like these guys. As we go forward, and I think as you raise more, having at least people with connections that can help you, right? Like, I'm not going to be really excited about a restaurant, specialized VC investing in Fitted. That brings no value to us, right? Y'all, we know we're going to be successful. Everyone on this call knows they're going to, or, we believe we're going to be successful, right? And we're going to make whatever person gives us money stupid amounts, right? But at the end of the day, we're not doing it for that. None of us are, right? Entrepreneurs are doing it for something else, right? And so you want like-minded VCs that play in your space, whether that's SaaS, whether that's retail, whether that's restaurants, right? That can bring some value, because I will say it has been so incredible with our lead VC has brought to the table one of our investors became our independent board member, right? And Brad was Scourgeon account. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, what a career he's had and what's value he brings and connections. Again, even Vynyl, the connections is such an important piece. So you should, even though we are all desperate a lot of times for the money, like, the questions should always be like, what space do you play in? All that kind of thing. Where do you guys bring your value? I think that's super important to ask, and then to make a decision based on your business.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Absolutely. And, if you have if you have options, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can be more picky.
Yeah, yeah. We're still, we don't get too cocky. That'd be really nice. When you hear about these companies, they're like, yes, every VC came to us and we got to choose. It's like, screw you.
Right.
So.
I love it. Awesome. Okay. So if you had if you could think of one or two major pieces of advice, if the people watching here, if they're about to embark on a fundraising journey, or if they're going from a friends and family round to a seed round, or if they're going from a seed round to an A round, if you had one or two just core pieces of advice that you could leave them with, what would those be?
Yeah, I think sounds super corny, but make sure your guiding light in and out. Y'all, a great business, in my opinion, is going to pivot, is going to cut corners, is going to zig and zag, but it's always going towards something, right? And if that's what you're telling when you're pitching or fundraising anything, you're telling that northern light. No one gets, DoorDash didn't get money by saying, hey, guess what? I myself, when I get an order, I'm going to go deliver it, right? They said, hey, guess what? This platform, and boom, anyone can order from anyone or order it. And, so no matter how you get there, what you're telling the story of is where you're going. And that is so important to feel inside you, because people feed off that. They're going to feed off that. And from there, you're going to be able, you'll also, if you feel it, when you're raising money and you're talking to investors, no matter what size, you're going to be taking that so personally that you're going to connect. Does that make sense? The connection is so important. Either it's going to be an investor that says, look, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but I love the passion. I love the vigor. Here's some money. I'm good. I'll sit back. Or it's like, I share the same passion. Let's do this. Or even better, someone's like, y'all, I don't get you. Or they're trying to change what you're doing. And right away, it's so important to know just what doesn't fit as much. So I think it's,
know your North Star and evaluate those investors as well based on whether they get it or not. Right.
Yep. Because that North Star should be your biggest story. That's what's going to get you
help you in trying to completely change you, I guess.
Yes. Because everyone will try to tell you how to do things, but if you're showing enough passion, then you can do it at least together with the right investors.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming today and for sharing your story and your insights and the things that you've learned. Obviously, good luck going into the next round. Hopefully we can bring you back in a year and you can tell the story of the big A round as well.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll have no hair and be crying, but yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sure Vynyl will be a part of it. You guys have been fantastic investors. So I definitely recommend people reach out to y'all too, because it's been a great partnership.
Awesome. You hear that? That's an important plug there. So awesome. Well, thank you, Monte. I really appreciate you being here with me and sharing all that with everybody. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Boise Entrepreneur Week.